Hi everyone. Today we're talking about WheeshtE by Kate Davies. The little subtitle here is Creative Making in Uncertain Times. And I'm here with Linda Jennings from Color Storm Yarns. And what are we going to talk about today?
The chapter Stay Put. We're going to continue that from a couple weeks ago when we got out of order. It's a wonderful chapter, Stay Put. I'll read the beginning of it for you.
Okay, I'm going to work on my project while you read it.
Okay. Stay put. Where are you right now? At home? At work? Curled up in your favorite armchair? Or sitting upright at a desk? Does sunlight flood your room? Or are your curtains drawn against the dark? Do you feel physically at ease? Do you read these words in complete silence? Or is the space in which you sit defined by sound? A radio in the next room, the whir of the washing machine downstairs, the hum of traffic in the street beyond, the chatter of your colleagues or your children, bird song, distant voices, all of the ordinary sonic textures of your workplace or your household. And it goes on to kind of give lots of thoughts and adjectives and ask questions to help me feel my place, my space. I loved this chapter very much.
I still keep coming back to sonic textures. I'm highly sensitive to sound, and I don't know if that's evolved over my lifetime or if it's always been there and I'm just now noticing it. But there's times when I can hear workers outside, like, the beeping, the backup beeping of a truck or the electric motor sound of a lawnmower or a leaf blower, and I cannot concentrate.
Do you prefer silence?
I cannot write a sentence if that is happening and I'm listening to it. And I'm having to find some new solutions to drowning that out for myself or my attention, or like adjusting what I can hear. This is a new development and it's kind of got me. I'm trying to find my place.
What's your reaction to that? How are you going to deal with it? Especially if it's sounds that you didn't put in place, right? If it's a sound maybe that you chose to have there, you put in the load of laundry or you turn the radio on yourself, that's one thing. But if it's sound that you did not choose to put there, makes you feel frustrated, powerless. I do.
Yeah, it's something that I'm having to sort of like really evaluate and get really clear about. What are my choices? What can I do to make this workable for me? And it really is the sounds that are outside of my control.
Yeah. How do you stay put in the middle of something that is unpleasant?
That's a really good question. I don't have a good answer.
Yeah, the chapter is full of the discussion about this artist called Hokusai. I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it, but he has made a series of rather flat, graphic, gorgeous, colorful designs, all based on Mount Fuji. At least that's the specific body of work that she talks about in this chapter, or his Mount Fuji series. Katsushika Hokusai. Each one is and just a beautiful linear shapes and gorgeous juxtapositions of colors. I really enjoyed looking them up, and how he looked at Mount Fuji from so many different angles.
Yeah, landscapes are interesting because every day they don't change, but then over time, the seasons, the length of the days, like if the sun's at, like for me, it just turns into such a backdrop of my visual environment. And then it's hard to, it's always special, but it's sort of hard to tease apart like what's changing for me.
Yeah, I feel like the creative assignments she has gets my thoughts going in a new direction. Like in the last chapter, I wrote 13 descriptions of my bird. And
That's so cool.
I had some unique thoughts about him after that. I looked at him a little bit differently. And this week's assignment is to pay attention to where you are at the same time of the day for 7 days in a row, and pay attention to the details of where you are. And I became more observant.
Mm.
And I feel like that they're mental exercises that help me kind of stay awake in my life, pay attention, not be less apathetic and more creative, be less take it for granted and more appreciative. All that from one chapter, right? Or a couple chapters. This whole book sort of has that reaction in me.
So as you were talking, the words that were coming to me are numbing out, like our tendency to like turn off, check out, like go into ourselves or be drawn out into something that we don't have to engage with. And that's sort of the opposite of the deep personal growth work or the paying attention to the very small things. And if I'm saying for me, if I don't have that conscious attention or intention to try and look at something in a deeper, different way, then it's very easy for me to lose track of time or get distracted by something or, scroll my phone and just get drawn into that. Yeah.
For me, it feels like I disappear when I just become too much in my own headspace and just bury down and play a phone game for an hour. I'm like, okay, where was I? What do I have to do? Wait a minute, what was that? I had a whole week where I let myself be obsessed with this one phone game.
I love it.
The first thing probably in my entire life, almost, other than the birth of a child or pain, something like that. It's the first stupid little hobby thing that distracted me from knitting. I've never had anything that kept me away from my knitting until I got to the stupid phone game.
I love that. I'm so here for it.
After a week, I was like, okay, I'm going to just choose to not do that again because I do have some knitting goals I want to accomplish, and I can give myself permission to knit less, but I just want to make sure I'm choosing where my life is going and not just falling into a deep hole out of laziness. Okay, if I'm choosing to do this, then there's a good reason for it. Maybe I'm wanting to give my shoulders and arms less knitting to be healthier, then that's fine. Then I just don't want to do it out of laziness. I don't want to be lazy with my life.
Well, there's the idea of like a deliberate decision.
Yeah.
It's different when you're like, oh, I'm going to do this for 5 minutes, and you look up and it's an hour later.
Yeah.
Like that's one situation. And then the other situation is like what you're talking about, where you give yourself permission to do the thing. Social media is designed to draw us in and keep us engaged. And like for me, I have to remind myself that when that happens, that means social media is working. Like, it's not a personal failure on my part. Like, social media was designed to do that. And when that result happens, like, for the social media person who designed it that way, my result is what they wanted, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It helps me to sort of like ease back or not beat myself up quite so harshly.
Okay.
But the struggle's real. Like, this is still a really new idea and concept. I was reading an account of when the printing press was starting and like the written word was becoming more accessible, and how fiction was like changing lives, and like people were reading stories, and like the result of that, like it was an evolution and a revolution, because that had never happened before. Like people never got drawn into the characters, and there was obsession and fan fiction and like a lot of emotion around these imaginary things, which was brand new for that point in time. And this is just the next level of that idea.
Sure.
We're dealing with something new.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess the main thing is to just stay awake in your life and pay attention to what's going on around you so that you can make decisions that are healthy. So I'll end with this little other little reading. So it says, be where you are. So if you have a tendency to feel overwhelmed, if you somehow feel lost in your creative making, if you don't quite know how to bring a sense of focus to your work, if you perhaps don't know quite where to begin with a new project, why not just stay put and really being there? Look at where you are right now, reflect on this and how this place defines you. She's written about this before. Pay attention to the details. Somehow when we're lost, if you pay attention to the details of where you are right at this very second, what is around you, what is going on, how do you feel about it, then you can define it and change it or stay with it.
Yeah, that's important.
Well, keep those creative thoughts going, and I hope you enjoy this chapter and try some of her exercises in the back. I found it really helpful. And I hope you have a wonderful week, everyone. Bye-bye.